In a recent discussion I had with my friends, we couldn't help but notice the sexual harassment that happened both in private places and in public places. In private places, they were mostly among family members. Then in public places, they were mostly in buses. This then brought us to the topic, how can one deal with sexual harassment? Joining me today are two special guests who will be talking on this topic. So don't go anywhere, sit back, relax, because after this break, we'll be joining them. Welcome back, Saints, and you are still watching Catholic Faith Forum. I'm your host, Staphenie Eze-Unye. Today, we'll be talking on the topic, how to handle sexual harassment. Joining me today are two special guests by the name Mrs. Chinonso Anneke Bakare and Mrs. Rita George Oko. You're welcome, ma.
Hello, Staphenie.
You're welcome, ma. You guys are really looking really stunning.
Just like
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm blushing. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss Bakare.
Okay, I am Chinonso.
Okay. So would you like me to call you Chinonso or Miss Bakare? Which one?
Chinonso is my
Just
name.
Chinonso. Okay, Chinonso.
I was born and named Chinonso, so the Mrs. is just a title.
All right.
Okay, I'm a woman, a mother, a wife, into the hospitality business.
Okay.
I'm also a member, a co-founder of Dignified Women of Substance Foundation. So we are very conversant with the topic.
Women issues. I see. So Miss Rita, just tell us about yourself.
Okay, Rita. Yes, I'm a lawyer. I'm a mediator, an entrepreneur. Yes, I have a burning passion for issues like this because I deal mainly with women and then children. You know, like she said, I also belong to a foundation that addresses issues like this. Yeah, so I'm kind of passionate about this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, Mas. Thank you. All right, so let's delve right into it. So Ms. Chinonso, how would you define sexual harassment?
Okay, sexual harassment is a sexual behavior that is either given or received. It will make you feel offended. It will make you feel embarrassed. It will make you feel intimidated. It also make you feel you're offended, you're intimidated, you're embarrassed, you are uncomfortable. So it's usually a sexual act that is either given or received. But it's always unwanted. So that is why it is a harassment.
All right, so Ms. Rita.
Yes, I was going to say, apart from, giving or receiving, there's something that would be missing, which is consent. And even if there's consent, if the consent was gotten by fraud or deception or intimidation, when the consent is coerced. So it's, like an harassment.
Okay, so I'd like to clarify something. I was reading somewhere that sexual harassment doesn't really have to be sexual intercourse, forced sexual intercourse. It can even be someone touching you and you don't like the fact that he's touching you. Can that also be classified as sexual harassment?
That's why it is unwanted. The grouping, the touching, the signals, the messages, exposures, they are all harassment. Most times you don't need to have kind of a contact. In the absence of a contact, there could also be a message. You're sending a message that is a wrong message. It's harassment because it is unwanted. So someone could actually send you a picture and you're being sexually harassed. Someone could actually, give you an eye, like look at you. Somebody can actually undress you looking at you. You are being sexually harassed, yes.
So it's not compulsory that words pass. You might not even say anything. So just your actions or inactions or, just body movements, signals, like she said. So, and then you feel like this person is harassing you.
All right, guys, so we've seen that sexual harassment does not always have to do with sexual contact. So, Ms. Chinonso, I would like to ask, what is the statistics of sexual harassment in Nigeria currently?
I would say, if I'm going to use percentage.
Okay, let's look at percentage.
I would say 80, if not more.
Wow.
Yeah. because we have sexual harassment is not limited by time, space, like it can happen anywhere. It can happen, it's not limited to age too. So it can happen to babies, it can happen to adolescents, to toddlers, to adults, and it is not also limited to the sexes. You have women harassing men, you have men harassing women. So
how about women harassing women?
Of course, thank you. Women harassing women sexually, men harassing men sexually.
All right, guys, let's find out who the saint of this week is. Stay tuned.
Our saint of the week is Saint Hildegard of Bingen. She was born in 1098 in Germany. She was a German Benedictine abbess and polymath, active as a writer, composer, philosopher, mystic, visionary, and as a medical writer and practitioner during the High Middle Ages. She is one of the best-known composers of sacred monophony, as well as the most recorded in modern history. She has been considered by scholars to be the founder of scientific natural history in Germany. Hildegard was 15 years old when she began wearing the Benedictine habit and pursuing a religious life. She succeeded Jutta as prioress in 1136. Having experienced visions since she was a child, at age 43, she consulted her confessor, who in turn reported the matter to the Archbishop of Mainz. A committee of theologians subsequently confirmed the authenticity of Hildegard's visions, and a monk was appointed to help her record them in writing. The finished work, Civias, 1141-52, consists of 26 visions that are prophetic and apocalyptic in form, and in their treatment of such topics as the church, the relationship between God and humanity, and redemption. At about 1147, Hildegard left Disibodenberg with several nuns to found a new convent at Rupertsberg, where she continued to exercise the gift of prophecy and to record her visions in writing. Her earliest biographer proclaimed her a saint, and miracles were reported during her life and at her tomb. She died on the 17th of September 1179 at the age of 81. However, she was not formally canonized until 2012, when Pope Benedict XVI declared her to be a saint through the process of equivalent canonization, a papal proclamation of canonization based on a standing tradition of popular veneration. Later that year, Benedict proclaimed Hildegard a doctor of the Church, one of only 4 women to have been so named. She is considered a patron saint of musicians and writers. Her liturgical feast is celebrated on September 17. Saint Hildegard, pray for us.
Welcome back, guys. You're still watching Catholic Faith Forum. So we're still on the topic, how to deal with family members. So before we went on the break, we were talking about the statistics of sexual harassment in Nigeria. So we're moving on. So Ms. Chinonso, what do you have to say about someone being harassed by a family member?
How would the person handle it?
How would the person handle it?
Okay. Sometimes when there are family members, because you have respect for this person, if they are older, most people tend to withdraw and say nothing. But when you are dealing with sexual harassment, not minding the location, the space, the first thing is to confront the person firmly and seriously. Don't make it like rude. Depending. You can actually be rude by being very serious about what you're about saying. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to confront an uncle, and I am 15 years old, and I don't have to say, Uncle, you're stupid, you're that. I'll say, Uncle, I don't like this. You try this next time, Daddy will hear about it. You've not said anything rudely. You're just passing this information firmly. And
can I say
uncle,
something? Can I cut you? Sorry,
okay.
Can I say something? I don't want to miss this point. Now, I would say, with family, there's a relationship. So you want to state your annoyance with the person's action, right? At the same time, you want to preserve relationship. But where, like she said, where you're dealing with an older family member, you can be firm and still be respectful. But then, like she said, if you have to be rude, you can actually be rude. Because it just goes to show that this is something that is distasteful and you cannot stand it. So it's, uncle, I would appreciate if you don't do this again. If you do, I will tell, you just expressing your annoyance, in a very firm manner, firm, but still, still regarding that person as a family member. Because I would tell anybody who is harassed that the first thing, don't feel ashamed. Because if you feel like, feel ashamed that, I'm being harassed, I don't want to say it, I don't want people looking at me somehow. Maybe my mother would say, how did you walk in his presence? What were you wearing? Because right here we are more, we judge people a lot. We try to make the victims actually to become the victims become, yes, that the offenders,
We
so,
end up victimizing the victim.
So, to avoid things like that, it's just better to state it right there with the person. Let the person know that you're, being firm with him, so that the person would stop, would not progress with that action. So,
and then we also have to let our children know, if we have younger ones at home, let them know that there shouldn't be any secret between the parents and the children. So when they are being harassed by any family member, come straight to mommy, come straight to daddy. You are not, the relationship you have with your children should be such that there is no barriers. There are no fears holding them back from, divulging anything to you, no matter how serious it is. So when something like this happens, your child should be able to walk to you and say, mommy, this is what happened, that this will happen.
All right, so let's move a little into sexual harassment in public places. Now, public places, for example, as I stated, buses. This is so obvious. We were talking, this was just annoying I and my friends. We're in the bus one day. A friend of mine, she was in a bus one day, and this man just kept putting his hand at the elbow on her breast. And a bus is usually tight. So they take the advantage of that and just, sexually harass you. So in that kind of case, or another case, probably you're sitting on a chair, the guy at your back, his knees touching your body, and you're like, what can you do? But you're in a bus. What would you advise girls to do in that kind of situation? Okay,
let me start, but I've experienced something like this on 2 occasions. One was I was freshly out of secondary school. That should be okay. Let me spare you the how many.
No, you're free to actually.
That was a bus going from Oshodi to somewhere on the island. And as small as I was trying to reach and hold the handler in the bus. And then there's this man that should be in his mid-30s. And he was leaning back, he thrust his waist forward, and I could feel his hardness behind me. And I knew that something was not right. So I looked back, I couldn't see his face. And I kept using, my elbow to shove him back. At a point, I had to turn around and say, Oga, what are you doing? Please, can you just adjust? So, and a lot of people began to look. And when he saw that people were looking at him, he was trying to use his back too. So when you are in that position, when you keep calm, you are sending the wrong message. The person thinks, oh, maybe she's enjoying it. Maybe that's consent. But when you speak out, or if you can, like in my situation, I can actually move, I can actually move, look for a woman, or I can actually speak out. The second one was on a bus. It was very bad. I was sitting at the edge of the bus. The man sitting next to me, he was a fine gentleman, very well dressed, in suit, tie, having his suitcase. I was sitting at the edge. He held his suitcase this way, and I noticed he was trying to get my attention. I was busy with my phone. That was 2012. I actually didn't know what he was, but he tried to get my attention, and I would look at him, and then I noticed something mildly waving, hello. Something was just waving, and when I looked at it, what? And I said, Jesus, what is this? And they said, and he did like this. I said, what? I said, so why would you do that? He actually unzipped, and his penis was dangling this way. I felt so embarrassed. I just felt like I was I was shaking.
I understand.
At that point, as soon as I raised
The
the
alarm.
alarm, it wasn't my intention to embarrass him, but I just felt that was the best I could do at that moment. So what he did was he held his suitcase and he just said, "Oh," and he
Came down. The embarrassment was too much.
You know, sometimes when you take in so much, if you're to react, you might overreact. In my case, I had it one time too many. So I had a very dramatic one. Was still on a bus, and the guy was behind me. So he, just note, it was not the first time. I had it like a lot, over and over. So that day I was prepared. I just felt, enough of this. Is it, you know, you want to be respectful, you want to still, don't do that. But in this case, I went all out. So he was behind me and he kept on moving, you know, like that. I was holding on. I couldn't move because it was a, you know, Monue bus,
Yes.
you know, way back. And the next, at a point, I felt the hardness of his weapon of oppression. You know, so I felt it and I held on to it. And I said, so he was so ashamed.
Wow.
Everybody on the bus knew. So when you're going through things like this, you cry out. You cry out. So the oppressor will feel like an oppressor. I don't like when victims start feeling like they're the offenders, you know. So, you know, I advise people to just speak up. If you have to embarrass the person, embarrass the person.
All right, guys, let's meet the Know Your Faith crew for our Know Your Faith session. Stay tuned.
Hello people and welcome to a new episode of Know Your Faith series. I am Elefachi. Can a Catholic priest consecrate regular bread? The answer is no. The document of the Church, Redemptionist Sacramentum number 48 says, the bread used in the celebration of the most holy Eucharistic sacrifice must be unleavened, purely of wheat and recently made, so that there is no danger of decomposition. It is a grave abuse to introduce other substances such as fruits or sugar or honey into the bread for confecting the Eucharist. Not just that, Canon 926 of the Code of Canon Law mandates, in accord with the ancient tradition of the Latin Church, the priest is to use unleavened bread in the celebration of the Eucharist whenever he offers it. That is to say that a priest can't use regular bread at Mass. Christ himself used unleavened bread in the Last Supper. Know this and know peace. When the priest repeats the word of Jesus over the unleavened bread and the wine made from grapes, this is my body and this is my blood, it becomes the real, true, and substantial body and blood of Jesus Christ. And by receiving the Eucharist, we become intimately united with Jesus Christ, as he himself says, he who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. John 6, verse 56. Our life in Christ has its foundation in the Eucharistic banquet. Jesus says, as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who eats me will live because of me. John 6, 57. That's all for today. Till I come your way next time, remain bold and Catholic.
Thank you so much, Know Your Faith crew, for that amazing topic. So, Miss Rita, I just quickly want to throw this question. So, what do you think? Does sexual harassment have a later effect on the victim?
Of course. That's why you shouldn't soak it in. It can make you feel, yes, it can make you feel less of yourself. You know, it affects your self-esteem. And sometimes you're so unsure, you don't want to stand before the opposite sex because you feel, oh, he will harass me. You are wary of people of that gender because you feel, oh, you know, if anybody comes close, you just feel, oh, he's harassing. So you might be unnecessarily, you know, touchy when it comes to issues like that. You know, at the same time, it makes you lose trust in people who you should maybe even respect. You know, it could be a priest. A priest is just coming to give you a very innocent hug, and you're already feeling, oh, he's harassing me.
I understand.
You know, just because You know, it could be like a key in a man's pocket right now, and the guy is close to me, and I'm already feeling, no, it's not the key, it's something else. So, you know, things like this, there's no offense that doesn't really have a long-term, yes, effect. So that's why we keep advising people, purge yourself of it, let it out, so that, you know, at the long term, you know, it doesn't come back, it doesn't boomerang to now affect you. So let it out. Talk to people. It's an offense. Apart from it being, you know, immoral, it's an offense under the law. So you can actually seek redress if you have people who witnessed it, or if you can prove it, you know.
Yeah, document it.
You can seek redress, so and you will get closure. So once it happens, you deal with it, you get closure to help you to save yourself from having, you know, the negative effect from it later in life.
All right, Ms. Chinonso, so please tell us, like, okay, as she has rightly said, you should seek redress. So let's say you've already been sexually harassed. Who can you go to seek redress from? How can you handle it? You've been sexually harassed, so now you want to deal with it. Who do you go to? How do you handle it? What best ways should you do to handle this issue?
Okay, first, like, the first you should do is confront this person. And if it's happening in a workplace, and if the person is your colleague, you should report that to your supervisor. And if it's from your supervisor, you should report to your supervisor's supervisor. And if you're being victimized because you have spoken out, and you should file a report. But before filing a report, you should document all of this, because sometimes, like in Nigeria now, if I walk up to this police station and say this person is harassing me, first of all, because of, you know, the Nigerian factor, they'll start by asking you, are you sure? How would you prove it? Are you sure you didn't want it? Are you sure you didn't ask for it? How were you dressed?
So like a word against, it's a word against the oppressor.
So if he is or she sends some messages that are unwanted, file them. If there are pictures, if there are videos, even if it's in the open, as long as it's in the workplace, talk to somebody else. And when you're going to report, if you have a lawyer in your life, someone like Rita, someone like Nat, someone like Amaka, my sister, you could just go with any of them to the police station, you know, and present those documents that you have. Then if it's happening in the school place, from a lecturer, then you have to report to the Senate. Yes, but before reporting, confront that person first. But when you feel that after the confrontation you are being targeted, you are being victimized, then you can go straight to the police station. So
it's safer to say just follow
due process.
Follow the, you know, hierarchy of authority. So if it happens here, you check what's the next in authority. So you go all the way. You explore all your all the avenues. So
thank you so much, Ms. Chinonso. Thank you so much, Ms. Rita, for that.
You're welcome.
Awesome discussion. I enjoyed it. All right, guys, we've come to the end of today's topic. Hope you learned so much, because I learned so much. So you've heard it. So there are ways to deal with sexual harassment. You can report to authorities. You can report to lawyers, those that specialize in, you know, women and children harassment. So that's it, guys. We've come to the end of the show. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. Do not forget to send in your comments if you have any comments, or if you have any contrary opinion. Feel free to drop them in the comments section. Follow us on our YouTube channel at Dominica Media Presents. And do not also forget to follow us on our social media platforms at CFF on TV. And until next time, guys, keep being saints in jeans and shirts. Goodbye.